We anticipate in the next 10 to 12 years approximately 86 million Hispanics coming into the United States and 41 million Asians. You have been the majority minority for 400 years in this country. You have been the number 2 population for 400 years. You're gonna get kicked out of being number 2, you're gonna go down and become number 4. Now, common sense, even a 3rd grade education would tell you, if you didn't get anything when you were number 2, you all jumped ahead of me, but anyway, you can guess what you're gonna get when you become number 4.
President Biden, do you support reparations?
Well, I mean, since I haven't spoken on this, got a chance. Number one, the reason we're the country we are is because of immigration. We've been able to cherry pick the best from every single continent. The people who come here have determination, resilience. They are ready to stand up and work like the devil. We have 24 out of every 100 children in our school today is Hispanic. The idea that we are going to walk away and not provide every opportunity for them is not only stupid and immoral, but it's bad for America. They are the future of America.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. And this is what we are faced with. And this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
We are owed $104 trillion on the very low end, plus $735 billion recurring. This number does not include the cost of about 50 Black Wall Streets that were decimated, nor compound interest from 2017 when Sean D. Rochester's book, The Black Tax, was published, nor the cost of Black life, nor the cost of living increases, nor the war on drugs, nor the current day pandemic. The number I'm working with is for slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country our ancestors built with their lives.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Happy Resurrection Sunday, family. Good afternoon on the West Coast. Good afternoon in the mountains. Good afternoon in the Central. Good afternoon on the East Coast. This is Angela Nazana, your hostess with the mostest on the Reparations Perspective, bringing you those Freedmen hot topics and making the case for reparations, making the case for weaponizing our votes, socializing our suffering. How y'all doing, family, on this Resurrection Sunday? I am in a meeting right now about today's very topic. I see you, Yaira. Welcome one and all, Twitter Space, Facebook, and ScrewTube. I'm so happy to have you at the last minute. Listen, I have to get it in where I can fit it in, and I really don't have time right now. But hey, the show must go on, and the call to action must go on. Family, we are up against the clock. If we don't get this done, we won't get a chance to have a say for another 27 years. By that time, I don't even know how many foundational Black Americans will still be in this country. There are some serious ethnic cleansing, ethno-genocidal plans happening as I speak. It is to erase and replace us with everyone, especially Black immigrants. They are significantly more wealthy than we are, and they get to come here with the resources from being descendants of African slave traders. And then they get to identify as us in order to get all the things that our ancestors have fought for. And so we see the trick of the hand of the devil called our government in flattening blackness and how it is served to make Black Americans specifically and uniquely and exclusively the bottom caste. So we are in the fight of our lives to get up off this bottom, and we need all hands on deck. You understand what the words that are coming out of my mouth? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? So I got a Zoom meeting right now running on the phone. I got this live running over here. I got to jump in the shower so I can celebrate with my church family. Hello, heroes in you, okay? You are the risen Christ. That's a whole nother broadcast. I'm not going there. I ain't even got the time to delve into that topic. But you are the temple of the living God. I already tell y'all that at the close of every broadcast. I see you, Michael Evans. Thank you for joining the live. Listen, I need y'all to keep it lit over here because Mama is multitasking, but I'm doing a full court press to get this change.org petition signed. It's in the chat. If you're over in Facebook watching, if you're over in Twitter watching, you need to come over here and get this link and make it go viral. We need all hands on deck. This is an opportunity for everybody to be a part of this movement. Our whole entire lineage, and it's very thriving and flourishing in the country our ancestors built with their lives, is codependent on this action that we must take. You guys don't even understand because, well, a lot of you do because you're politically involved. But we have come up with the best way to unflatten blackness so that Black Americans can finally get their share of resources and stop allowing this government to flatten us under minority and, hi Brian, I see you, fam, minority and people of color and disenfranchised and all this kind of nonsense as we suffer the highest rates of homelessness, unemployment, underemployment, state-sanctioned executions of unarmed Black American men, women, and children. I'm not here to have no pissing match over African and Caribbeans that are also executed by the race soldiers. But understand that poverty is a condition of who gets shot and murdered by the race soldiers. That's a poverty condition. That's why the majority are Black American. Because I've already shared with you guys out here in LA 9 years ago, African Black was 333% more liquid than American freedmen. U.S. Black is what they call us. It's a free PDF, The Color of Wealth LA. It's a free download if you want to check my math. They were 60,000 liquid to our 200 liquid, and that was 9 years ago. We were 44% degree to their 54% degree. Their incomes were 115,000 median. Ours was 53.5. Hispanics was 17% degree, and their median income was within 3,500 of ours at 50K. I'm here to tell you this government at every branch is seeking to extinct us with our own damn vote. And so I need all hands on deck. I need everybody to get involved in this mission. And I pinned it at the very top of this chat. So after the broadcast, y'all get over here and you pick up this link. It's in the description. It's in the chat. It's all over Twitter. It's all over Facebook. It's all over ScrewTube and my chat over here. Listen, we are working day and night to save the line. And the only way, well, one of many ways we must do that, since they playing with reparations, even here in the state of California, they playing. I'm not going to get into that. That's a whole nother Oprah for a whole nother day. Right now, I got to share this live because I tried to share it. I tried to go live while on a live, and it was an epic fail. So y'all only got about 20 minutes last time. I'm over here for a do-over, and I will be sharing every window I get. Yes, it will be last minute because I never know when I'm going to have a window to squeeze in the lies, but it must happen. By hook or crook, it must happen to get this message out. I'll be coming on with a couple of other spaces that Cap, shout out to Cap and the work group, which I'm privileged to be a part of, where they've been in Twitter spaces, talking to the people, joining forces and unity for our community with FBA and B1 and ADOS. We have been putting in the work. And now everybody's coming out the woodwork to try and attempt to give us some competition. So I got to stay up. We got to stay up day and night to be 50 paces ahead, okay, of everybody else. Listen, we've also got the papers that you can hit the streets with. The petition is in the streets. It's in the social media streets and on the main streets. Cap was out yesterday. They procured about 500 signatures. They were out there like an all-day job over in the DMV. Shout out to them. But without further ado, because I must continue preparing for church, let me share the video. Enjoy it. Keep the chat lit. I see you, Michael Pan. Hi, family. Okay, here we go. We're unflattening blackness to get up off this bottom and to leave our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren an opportunity to have their own resources flourish through what we call the Office of Freedmen Affairs. Okay? That's a whole nother thing. We need our own offices managing our own resources. Because every time anything comes to us, we never benefit. We don't see a dime. So this is a step in that direction. We can't just fight for reparations. We got to fight all the fires. We're in a towering inferno right now. So there you have it. So anyway, keep it lit. And I'm going to share this live. Stand by. Please make this go viral. Like, share, subscribe. Turn on your notifications. Okay? Shout out to ETM Media. I was a guest on their broadcast. Show them your love, family.
Amend the Mass Media Group e-store is now live.
We've got Reparations Now, Policy Over Party, and Cut the Check, branded merch and hoodies, hats, and tees, and even V-necks for the ladies.
You can even get a commemorative, one-of-a-kind Cut the Check spatula spreader. The engraved keepsake life knife is guaranteed for a lifetime and can be passed down to future generations. Go to etmmediagroupstore.com.
That's etmmediagroupstore.com. Right now, as always, appreciate you.
Visit ETM Media Group online merch store and cut the check.
And introduce everybody, and then after we introducing everybody, I want to go ahead and play the promo that we have for the peoplehood. So if you want to introduce everybody or something.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you all first. Thank Kim and Umoya for hosting us on ETM. This is absolutely an honor and a privilege as always. I always feel like I'm home when I come here, so thank you, family, as always. So first, let me introduce myself. My name is Asan Powell. I am the co-founder and president of Capital Accountability Project. We are the organization that took the liberty of assembling a work group to assist with the OMB and our redefining. So our work group is called Unity for Our Community. I'm going to start under Kim's picture with I am also, let me say that, I am the chair of the Unity for Community work group. Our co-chair is Ms. Tansy Flakes. She is also a co-founder of Capital Accountability Project. And so she's not quite on camera yet, but that's Ms. Tansy Flakes. And then one of our advisory board members, Dennis Jones, he is also a part of Capital Accountability Project, and he's a part of the Unity for Our Community work group. And then we have Mona Strahan. I'm sorry, Mona, for mispronouncing your last name. And she is also a part of the Unity for Community work group. Then we have, I don't see Angela Nirvana here. I think we may have lost her.
Yeah, I think she dropped off.
Okay, so we'll wait for her to come back in. But for those who
back.
Awesome, and it's awesome. There she is. For those who know Angela, there is no real need for an introduction. She is the real talk, the TRP, the Reparations perspective, and she also heads up the California Capital Accountability Project, and she is one of our biggest helpers when it comes to all of this work. She's the one that keeps me anyway on track when I kind of get a little bit wrapped up. And then another person who needs no introduction to our advocacy space, Ms. Dawn Page. She is the founder of Concerned Black American Citizens. Dawn is phenomenal in all that she does when it comes to just being able to research, locate information for us, and just her legislative insight is just phenomenal. So what you see before you are the core people of the work group, Unity for Our Community. So with that, let me move on to the next. I just want to briefly introduce and give some explanation and clear up some of the concerns that we've heard through our community. So Unity for Community Work Group, we, to just sum it up and to expedite this, we proposed this proposal to our community because of the OMB. We have been studying the OMB for about 15 months collectively. We have been studying it for about 15 months collectively. After that, the advisory board of Capital Accountability realized that this was a task beyond what we could do on our own, within our own body of membership in the advisory board. So we reached out to core people that we trusted and believed could assist us in building this out better. After that, what we did was we began to look at the summary, the 18-page summary of the OMB, and we embarked on a daunting task of answering the 40+ questions. From there, we also continued to do all of our surveys, and eventually after the town hall meeting, we decided to come back, reconvene, and figure out how we could promote unity within our community. And that is when the proposal was born. So with that, I'm going to pause. Umoya, did you want to run the promo video? And then we will move to our speakers.
After 15 months of listening to an array of social media spaces, conducting surveys on the ground and online, presenting to the OMB, and reviewing over 7,000 public comments, our community has spoken. The consensus is to be identified as Black Americans with a separate reporting category from Black immigrants. The proposed reporting categories are as follows. The category Black American includes individuals who identify with any of the foundational populations in the United States of America, previously referred to as Negro, Freedmen, Black, Colored, Mulatto, or African American prior to the end of the 19th century. This includes people and groups that identify as free Blacks, American Freedmen, GULLAH, GEECHEE, American Negro, Black American, African American, American descendants of slavery, foundational Black Americans, and descendants of American slaves, etc. This will help us to be recognized once and for all to be more than just a race, but a peoplehood. As descendants, we fight for our ancestors, we fight for our birthright, we fight for our future, we fight for our freedom. Go to spd15revision.gov and let the OMB working group know that we need this change. The public comment deadline is April 12th, 2023. Thank you for your time, your consideration, and your support.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So with that, what I'm going to do, and I'm sorry because it was kind of freezing on my end, so I didn't know when the video ended if you all were waiting on it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to throw the mic over to Ms. Tansy Flakes for her to explain what peoplehood is.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tansy Flakes, as Hassan has introduced me. Thank you so much for the gracious introduction. I am the co-chair of this working group and also a co-founder of CAP. What I want to impart today is all of the talk about peoplehood. So peoplehood is the acknowledgement of a shared lineage, characteristics, and culture of a specific group. We see these things in America. We're not necessarily, we don't speak to it that way, but we very much so acknowledge it. Understanding peoplehood is understanding that we have a shared lineage, a shared experience, a lived experience, shared morals, shared characteristics, and a shared culture in this country of America. We belong to a distinct group of people, and our bloodlines were developed here in America from around 1619 to 1865. And there are studies that back all of this stuff up. We may identify by different names, but we are one people, and we recognize each other as one people. We address each other as a people. We know each other, and we recognize each other as a people. And we even have jokes about peoplehood. We say, just because you look like me don't mean you are me. All skin folk ain't kinfolk. So we understand the difference in or acknowledge that we are a people, and we want the United States government to do that as well. Respect our distinctness as a group of people. We are Black Americans, and we identify by many different names. So I hope that kind of clears it up, and I'm sure people will have questions, and I'm willing to answer them.
Thank you for that, Tansy. We're going to next go to Dennis. He's going to highlight what the benefits of respecting Black Americans' peoplehood. Dennis?
You're muted.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Ashan. I wanted to read a little something that I had wrote and what peoplehood from the beginning and until now. So no one exemplifies peoplehood on this land more than Black Americans. We have been the trendsetters, and as a result, our platform has been duplicated, copied by movements and organizations here in the US as well as worldwide. Even through our years of slavery, we were unified in our peoplehood. For example, the Mississippi Encyclopedia states, slavery undermined all ties between our ancestors, yet our ancestors in Mississippi and elsewhere formed communities of work, kinship, religious fellowship, to name but a few. After emancipation, our communities stayed in our personhood, even through adverse conditions, as Jim Crow laws started as early as 1865. Our ancestors stood strong by building churches, schools, and grocery stores. Me, being the youngest of 7 children, my elder siblings would reminisce about what my mother had shared with them. As a child growing up in Nicodemus, Kansas, she remembered everything was Black owned and the closeness of the entire town. When Jim Crow's laws started to end by the 1960s, our peoplehood was taken to a whole new level. The emergence of Black is beautiful throughout the 60s and 70s. No one said it better than James Brown, and I quote, "Some people say we got a lot of malice. Some say we have a lot of nerve, but I say we won't stop moving till we get what we deserve. Say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud." Our traditions were made from our ancestors, such as family reunions, which was a big part of all of our lives, meeting and greeting, aunts, uncles, and cousins, generations from our family tree. Love and much happiness of gathering together could not make things more clear. And I say that is peoplehood. Moving forward now in the 21st century, unity for our community has never been more important than it is now. We are the descendants of chattel slavery, brought here through force, and that time we created our history and culture under the names America has changed for us throughout many different generations. We here and now propose to all those different identities while standing as one in nation my people has built, and I would say that is undoubtedly peoplehood. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Dennis. Next, we're going to move to Mona, and Mona is going to explain data collection as it pertains to the OMB. And just let me say before you come on, Mona, Dennis, thank you very much for taking the time to connect those dots for us to show people that we have always been one people, one hood, and now we're just solidifying it moving forward. So thank you for that. Mona, the mic is yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Amoye, for having us here today. My name is Mona. I am hailed from the great state of Illinois in the city of Chicago. So I'm going to speak us a little bit about data collection. The most common methods used for publishing literature, you know, a lot of times we hear people say, well, it's in the literature, it's in research. But the way in order for them to collect the information, there are a number of different ways in which they collect the information at OMB. Like they had the town halls. So that was more like a focus group, if you think about it. So there are a number of ways you have to collect data. So you could do surveys. So when people call you over the telephone and they ask you questions in reference to like how many times a day you eat apples, or how many times a day you ride the public transportation, or how many times a day you put gas in your car, those are surveying to get your input and your insight. Or they may send you some emails, or they may send you mail, or they may do interviews, telephone interviews, face-to-face interviews, and like I mentioned earlier, focus groups as well. So they do a whole lot of kind of things like observation, you get documentation, you get records, and then sometimes they do a lot of experiments. So there are a number of different ways in which you can do data collection. So what now they're doing is they're tracking social media. They have discussion forums as if the same thing we're doing. They're reviewing sites. People are blogging. There are online channels, again, questionnaires and forums, in person or by telephone, like I mentioned earlier. There are a number of ways in which you can do and collect data. There are two main things I want to really point out to people when you're collecting data. There is quantitative data. So quantitative data is all about the numbers, right? So when they say things like 78% of Black women use beautiful red lipstick on a Sunday going to church, or they say 17% of Black men wear gym shoes to church on Sunday. Those are percentages. So those are like the percentage we give the information, the numbers. And then we also had a thing called qualitative data. So qualitative data gives you the story behind those numbers, because you don't know why 78% of Black women wear red lipstick to church. You don't know why 17% of Black men wear gym shoes to church. So then what you start doing, you start to survey those people. You say, so why are you wearing red lipstick on Sunday? And so you start to get together these questionnaires, you start asking all these questions, you start to kind of formulate some sort of hypothesis or some sort of theory to kind of figure out, oh, that's why you wear red lipstick. Some people might say, I wear it because my grandmother wore it. I wear it because this is what I like. I wear it because it's my favorite color. Or I wear it because my sisters and my siblings wear it. Or you could say men wear gym shoes to church because it's comfortable. It could be men who are service workers, or men who are walking the beat all the time, or outside, or their feet may have problems. It could be a number of things. So we kind of put the story behind those numbers, which is really, really huge, what we need to do there. Then also you can have another one called mixed methods, and you will mix in quantitative and qualitative so you can kind of get more information. So when you're able to do research and you're able to read literature, the main thing I always kind of point out to people is read the abstract first. So that's the very first column inside any kind of the literature, any kind of articles you see. And when you look for the abstract, the first thing you always want to look for is the very first thing you want to look for the population in which you're getting the data from, right? You want to look for the age of the population. Then you also want to look for geographical area, right? So if it was done in Los Angeles, if it was done between Black men between the age of 18 and 45, or if it was all gender of Black men, or it was all gender of Black women, you want to be able to tie the information from the research into everyday accountability, how people are living and how people are going through. Because you don't want to get some data where they say, okay, this happened over in, say, some other foreign country. You're like, okay, so how will that relate to my community? So when we talk about those things in the literature, you want to look into the abstract. We want you to always understand, if you don't have the age or the population or the geographical area, or actually another, it's like, why are you doing a study? We call those gaps in the literature. So it's like those gaps in the literature, how will they pertain to you as a person when you're going through the whole entire process? So that was one thing I want to point out. Then the next thing, it goes into data sets, because when you collect all this literature, you do all these surveys, you do all these questionnaires, you are doing these focus groups, you're doing these face-to-face, you're doing this one-on-one information. That data has to be stored somewhere. So it's called data sets. And that's how you organize collection of the data. So the data sets list values for each of the variables. So variables may be data, information of that such. Okay, so anyway, that's about it. And I'm going to pass it on. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that, Mona. I appreciate it. I know if anyone here or in our audience has worked with Mona, you know she's a wealth of information, and data collection is her thing. So Mona, thank you very much for taking the time to try to explain in the most basic terms to the audience exactly what the data sets are when it comes to the OMB and how they use these to then determine what our redefining of our group is going to be. So next we want to move to no other than Miss Angela Nirvana. And Angela, what I would like to ask you to share with the audience is, what is the impact of the constant name changes when it comes to Black Americans? So please share that with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Hassan, and esteemed panel, ETN Media. It's such an honor to be here and to see so many incredible comrades in the chat. Usually rolling with your sister over at the Reparations Perspective. I thank you guys for putting in work all over the country. I love our theme, unity for our community. It is just so appropriate for what the illustrious team of CAP, CBAC, myself have come together to do. And it's such an important body of work, namely because all these different name changes every generation is just to continue to keep us in the dark about the truth of who we really are. They're trying to really cleanse us, in my humble opinion, and deny us our justice claim. And so every generation, as uncovered by this illustrious organization, has shown a name change to keep our reparations hidden, pretty much. I'm going to try to boil things down without giving too much away, because this will be streamed all over the country, all over the world. And I've learned how to move in silence to get the work done. I've learned the importance of being boots on the ground. But if you think about it, we went from mulatto to color to Negro to Black to African American, or some semblance thereof. But no other group in this country has undergone a name change every generation. And what that does is it creates a lot of chaos amongst us. It creates a lot of disenfranchisement, and it makes it hard for us to fight politically. And so what the brilliance here at CAP, CBAC, the Reparationist Perspective have come together in unity to do is to take the reins back for how we choose to identify. And after combing through 7,000 comments at the ONB, and after showing up for 3 days, listening to calls and hearing the chaos which was created by this government, the light went on in a sun. She turned the lights on in each and every one of us for us to collectively come together under Black American and take back the ownership of who we truly are as Negro, as freedmen, as ADOS, as FBA. It was brilliant and beautiful, and we are the world. Our ancestors built the wealth in this country that everyone eats from. And when the genius went off within this organization, I knew I had to be a part of it. And it's an honor and a privilege to be under the banner of unity for our community. And it's going to take each and every one of us to push really hard with the call to action that is going to be rolled out today to make it go viral, family. But it feels good to put down our weapons, because guess what? If ADOS goes and fights, Black Americans win. If freedmen go and fight politically, Black Americans win. If Negroes go and fight politically, you get it. You get where I'm going with this. You are picking up what I'm laying down, right? So we are here to stop the injustices, to stop the confusion, and to finally get us what we are long overdue. This reparations, yes, but we need immediate solutions. Wouldn't you agree? We need those resources to come directly to those of us who descend from U.S. chattel slavery. We are one people. We bleed that same DNA of the U.S. chattel slavery. Thank you, God. Thank you, ancestors. And thank you, Cap, that the light turned on in you, a son, to awaken the light in each and every one of us, to put our swords down, because we are one. We are one people. And I hope, y'all know I was born to talk. I hope that you guys understand clearly how the government put us in confusion and what Hassan and Cap and CBAC and TRP have come together to do is to stop the madness and to stop waging war against each other so that we can collectively wage war against our government. Oh yeah, I am so happy to give them all that TRP smoke. Thank you for allowing me to share.
Thank you for that, Angela. And when you get an opportunity, look into the chat. We would like for you to read your speech that you prepared for the audience. In the interim, we can come back to allow you to read that if you so would like to. In the interim, what we now want to do is move to. You want to do it now? Okay, so I'm going to pause. I'm going to allow Angela to read her speech that she prepared. She's not in her home state right now. She is traveling due to a family emergency, and so we had to assist her to coordinate things. So I'm going to pause for a second, allow Angela to read her speech, and then we're going to move to Dawn. You're muted.
Bless the mic because I got several versions of that speech. I want to pull up the right 2 minutes, okay? So Dawn, you can take the mic. You can pose a question of her.
I mean, I think Angela might be the appropriate ending. So why don't I go and do mine real quick? But hello,
hold on, Dawn. Let me transition over to you, and so the audience will be able to follow us. So Dawn is going to now speak to the audience as it pertains to our name changes and the legislation attached to it. Dawn, you may have the mic now.
All righty. Thank you, everyone. This is Dawn Page, Concerned Black American Citizens from North Carolina. I'm going to talk about the legislative crosswalk, but I wanted to start out with the Black American definition. Black American, the category Black American, includes individuals who identify with any of the foundational populations in the United States of America, previously referred to as Negro, Freedmen, Black, Colored, Mulatto, or African American prior to the end of the 19th century. This includes people and groups that identify as free Blacks, American Freedmen, GULLAH, GEECHEE, American Negro, Black American, African American, American descendants of slavery, and foundational Black Americans, etc. So I wanted to start there just so we have a good idea of why it is we made sure to include each of those names within the definition or under the umbrella of Black American. And when we look at legislation and when we look at why does the OMB do this every couple of years? And we realize that it is because first, it is their job to count the people that live in this country. But secondly, also to know who it is that is living in this country. And in order to, once they get that count, then that is how resources are allocated in this country. And so when we lay that on a timeline, we also look at policies and we look at the name changes and basically we're looking for patterns. And what was revealed is that essentially since our emancipation, we have had two major sweeping policy wins or changes, but they were then followed by some external pressures that essentially led to the failure to implement those policies. You can look at this from a malicious perspective that, our names were changed by design, which I do believe they were, maybe not for the reasons we may understand, or is this just the result of that more or less benign neglect? But when we lay the data out, we look at the emancipation of the Negro and all of the policies, the bureau that was established, the offices throughout the country, the fact that within just a few short years, that agency was able to eliminate, to cut the lineage wealth gap by 50%. We had the Freedmen's Bank that amassed 57 million that was then looted. We had the end of Reconstruction, and then we had in 1900 the census instructs workers to call us Negro. They're instructed to use Negro, and they're instructed how to use it. And then we see basically by 1907 we have 1.3 million immigrants, and in total 2 million since 1880. And if we think about our population, about 4 million freed slaves, and then you add 2 million or increase that impoverished population by about 2 million. And then we get to 1910 and 1920, and we see where the census workers then were instructed to use the word mulatto. And we know that that's connected to the paper genocide, the reclassification of many in the Virginia area who may or may not have been indigenous or triracial isolates, etc. But what does all this mean? Well, by 1934, the country had given out 270 million acres of land, which equaled 10% of the United States through the Homestead Act. And so it's pretty clear that during that period of time, we were also, not only were we supposed to participate in that as freedmen in the Homestead Act, we were also supposed to receive 40 acres. What followed was Jim Crow, and obviously our removal and exclusion from the system through redlining and other forms of structural violence. And it's no accident that freedmen essentially became forgotten about or discouraged against. And it just is obvious that external pressure basically led to our renaming. When Negro came along, we were Negroes essentially up until 1977, but we see in 1970, the U.S. Census then converts to self-identification, and now people are given the option of Negro or Black. Well, around that time in 1977, the OMB decides to define Black as an African racial group. They may have done it sooner, but if we look at the external pressure, so to speak, we know the Black Power movement was arising. But then when we look at the legislation, we find that there was a significant legislation established for Black Americans under the name of Negro, and how interestingly, soon after that, we see a drift toward the calling ourselves Black. And we see in the 70s, the Department of Energy and Public Works put in significant funded legislation that's still on the books. And then, of course, the next surge in immigration is the sub-Saharan and Caribbean immigration. And speaking, more to what is directly affecting us right now. but in 1997, the OMB then added African American. So essentially diluting us by adding different terms to what had been the accepted definition. In 2013, the OMB, without any real public commentary like we're having now, the OMB removed Negro, and research into that, we determined that the NAACP and the Urban League were behind that request. You can also make the case that it is this immigration surge from continental Africa and the Caribbean that caused people to push back against the census when they saw the word Negro on there. So I would contend that the backlash that the OMB speaks to actually comes from people outside of our lineage group. So at the same time, I've talked about FREEDMEN legislation that essentially stayed on the books for 100 years. Now we have NEGRO legislation that's essentially been on the books since 1977 or so. But the immigration against that backdrop has continued to serve, but here in recent years, the last 3 years, we've had 5 million new immigrants into the country. And now here in 2023, also the OMB is considering removing the word Negro. So if I look back at the Freedmen era, I see that while we were fighting over freedmen or forgetting about freedmen and becoming Negro and colored, we lost out on the Homestead Act and 270 million acres of land. While we had billions of dollars earmarked for us as Negro in the Department of Energy and Public Works, we became colored and Black and African American, and we have had a significant influx in immigration from the Sub-Saharan and Caribbean countries. And then last week or 2 weeks ago, everything comes into focus when we see now the, please land, I'll land here, that we have a recent announcement of the New Deal for New Americans, which is essentially a multi-billion-dollar program that essentially is meant for newly arrived people to this country. So I would say that this is part 3. We had Freedmen legislation, we've had Negro legislation, and now we have Black and African American legislation. So what I'm seeing is that the AAPI community is basically reaching back, and once we drop Negro, they will avail themselves, or they have already what they call modernized that legislation, which means not that it goes away, it means that once again, policies meant for us have been diluted. And it speaks to the confusion and what Angela said of us not being able to fight effectively for legislation. And that shows up in the failure to implement these policies. And I could go on, but I think I'm going to end there, and I'm going to turn it back over to Angela. But just to put a pin in it, what we found is that policy wins were followed by external pressures for renaming, that each of the names that we have in the definition are attached specifically to earmark funded covered legislation that is being currently mined by other special interest groups, and that name changes are followed by wealth transfers. So that is why it is so critically important that we're aware of these name changes, the impact, why they're being changed, or why it's important not to change them, and to understand the power behind unity in our community and realizing our true power as a united group of people under Black Americans. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dawn. We know that was a lot of information to digest, and so what the crust of what Dawn was trying to say to kind of simplify things is that essentially every time we have had a legal name change here in the United States, it was normally as a result of a legislative granting us legislation to advance us forward, and it was also linked to an influx of immigration. And so that's what Dawn's overall presentation was about. It was about us realizing that they're not just trying to change our identifiers here in the United States just to suppress our history, but they are also changing it to suppress the legislative growth that we had that was given to us under those former titles. With that being said, I'm going to go back to Angela. Angela, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to Angela to allow her to read her beautiful presentation that she prepared for this town hall, and then it'll come back to me. The mic is yours, Angela.
Okay. Let me just be clear, Asan, do you want me to cite the one from the recent OMB exchange or the one during the OMB sessions? Those call-in sessions.
You can cite the one from our OMB presentation back in August.
Okay, wonderful. I want to give a special shout out to Asan and Tanzi for helping me to make the edits to my comments. History has shown us that the early settlers of the United States had very different views on who they perceived Black Americans to be and the stations they are to hold in life. Because they were not afforded the humanity as others coming to the New World, they were not considered American. We now know this perception manifests itself in multiple ways, legally, in policy, and physically and emotionally, how people from within the Black American community are treated. This negative perception has had long-standing repercussions for all who live in America, not just Black Americans. People from within the African diaspora have been forced to identify as Black Americans because of this historic belief and our shared phenotypes, having no consideration for the Black American ethnogenesis here in America because of the transatlantic slave trade. This has harmed countless amounts of individuals and denied us all the dignity we deserve, being part of distinct groups. In effect, what the US government has been complicit in doing in renaming us every generation by not acknowledging our distinct peoplehood has kept us in a state of flux, has disenfranchised us as a descendant community, denying us our dignity as a distinct population of people, and consequently has rendered us bottom caste, while our history as the builders of this nation has been weaponized against us to give white and Black immigrants a tremendous economic advantage over us. We are 13% of the population for the highest rates of homelessness, unemployment, underemployment, incarceration, and state-sanctioned executions of unarmed Black American men, women, and children, all because we are perceived by the world as not being foundational to the American fabric. This history is arguably a charge of genocide and ethnocide. Therefore, we request that the OMB strongly consider correcting this injustice by implementing our recommended suggestions to aid in the healing of these past wrongs and discontinue this injustice. And let the church say amen.
Thank you very
Amen.
much. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
That's for that. Okay, and so I would like to just tie up. One, I would like to first go back over our definition very, very briefly so that people understand why we composed it the way we did. The first three lines of the definition was one, to secure those of us who were here prior to the end of the 19th century. And we were recognizing the legal identifying names that the United States has placed on us. The second grouping of identifiers that you see under the paragraph that says this includes individuals, this includes people and groups that identify as. That is a very important statement that we want to draw people's attention to. The OMB allows people to identify as what is most comfortable for them. And that's why that statement says identify as. And in that grouping, we added in all of the current identifying groups that our collective people, which are the Black American people, are now identifying with. So when people say, well, the OMB is going to throw that out because those are not legal recognized identifiers, that is not accurate. Under the OMB's guiding principle number 2, based on its summary, they have what they call respect individuals. If you read that definition, the OMB is trying to respect how individuals identify within their collective group. And so with doing that, what that allows us to now do is, if we choose to litigate under American freedmen, under American descendants of slavery, under foundational Black American or African American or any of our other identifiers, then we can now do that. And we will no longer be tied to a racial classification of what the current standing definition is when it comes to the OMB. And doing this also, what we have done is we've protected our people from ever having to be reclassified again. Our category header will always be, if this proposal is accepted, it will always be Black American, and then that definition precedes it. Now, the et cetera that you see at the end, and bear in mind that our definition is written in the exact terminology of the OMB, in their exact format. That et cetera is there not to allow other quote unquote melanated immigrants to come in and then try to claim our group. That et cetera is there. It is built in to allow our future generations 50, 60, 70 years from now, if they determine that we don't like any of the identifiers that were accepted back in 2023, they can then call themselves whatever they want, and they will fall in under the identifier. But the Black American category and the definition will never change. It will just become another recognized identifier under that. So I wanted to make that part clear so that people would understand that we understand the legal implications of why we have our legal recognizers at the top, and then the identifiers of how our community chooses to identify at the bottom. Now, with that being said, I would like to engage our audience before we go to a Q&A. I know we are a bit past our timeline of what we were shooting for work group, and I'm asking that if you all are able to stay on, please do so that we can address some of the questions coming from the chat, because our community's voices matter. But before I do that, I did want to roll out to the community that we are now doing a 10-day boots on the ground call to action. If you go to CAP's website, once you land on the website, on the front page, you will see a banner at the top. You can click it. You can go over to the specific page for this OMB push. You will find that we have now put up a petition for all that want to really get involved, boots on the ground, and people are saying, you know, I want to put in the work. We're now providing that. You can go there. You can click on. You can click on the petition that we have now created. It has the OMB figure 2 as well as the definitions, and it now has a signature spot. There are 3 categories for you to go out into your community and talk to our people that's in our neighborhood, our friends, our family. Have them sign. They can print their name. They can list how they identify, and then we're asking them to sign it. You can download, print out as many as you need. It is 10 signatures per page. And then we are asking our community to then go to the OMB and upload those petitions so that the OMB hears from our community in one united front, one united voice saying, this is who we are. This is what we are agreeing to. And then from this point forward, our goal is, for once in our history, we will finally be able to define our group as to whom we are and recognizing respectfully each and every one of the current titles that we identify under. With that being said, I'm going to now throw it back over to ETM Media, and you all can now share with us some of the responses or questions from the chat, and then I will ask the panel to address them.
If I can interject real quick.
Yes.
I have to jump off and check out of the hotel. Thank you so much. I will be listening in on the road from my phone. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Angela.
Thanks, Angela. Safe travels.
Thank you, sis.
I love y'all. Blackness, freedom, strong.
Absolutely. Safe travels back to California, sis.
Thank you.
All right, family, let's go through some of these comments real quick. And so this is basically the Q&A session or Q&A period. So anybody in the chat, if you do have a question or comment, please put it in now. I don't know how long our esteemed panel will be here. Maybe we'll be here for about another 15 minutes if everyone is available to answer or comment on it. So once again, please put it in the comment and chat section, because if you don't do it now, oh well, too late. Kind of like the reparations check. All right, so we're gonna go through just real quick. I just want to give a shout out to some people. Shout out to Reps. Shout out to Black Magic in the building. Looks like Kim. Somebody gave you a shout out. I think you said something at the task force meeting. Yeah. Shout out to Michael. What's up, Michael? Peace out. Real quick. Let's see who's in. Somebody gave us a son. Hey, Dennis. Mona.
And I also just dropped the website in for the CAP task force, if you want to go ahead and put that up too, so people can see it.
Where'd you put it at?
In the chat.
Oh, you actually put it in the chat. Okay. When we get there, we'll go ahead and put that up. Okay, American Union. Just give us some shout outs just real quick.
Yeah, and while he's doing that, I've been seeing, you know, a lot of chatter on the Bird app about this peoplehood proposal. Can you tell us what some of the pushback or what some of the, you know, comments you're getting behind your, you know, on social media?
So I will take that question. We've gotten a lot of positive and a lot of negative comments. I think because we were not prepared to roll out the proposal initially. When it was rolled out, it was moved up, to be honest, about 3 to 4 days. And so we didn't get a chance to do the campaigning that we needed to do when it came to peoplehood. And so people began to connect us to the LGBTQ plus community. People try to say that we were being funded by George Soros. People said that because of the peoplehood, hashtag that we were democratic shills. We've had a lot of negative and a lot of positive. We have addressed most of those. I will say again that no one in CAP or that's a part of the panel, not that we have any issue with anyone being LGBTQ plus or whatever, but none of us are LGBTQ plus. None of us here are funded by any democratic organization, or for that matter, any organization. CAP is solely and utterly self-funded by its advisory board members. And so I do want to say that the peoplehood concept was simply because we have always related to one another like, that's my peeps, those are my people. And so we thought that using that terminology would encourage everyone to understand to lay down our swords when it comes to each other, slashing each other over specific identifiers. Our goal and our absolute sincere intent was to promote unity for our community so that we don't allow ever again for the OMB or for any other special interest groups to redefine this community ever again. And that is what the essential idea was around peoplehood. All of the other things that are being said are misinformation and absolutely inaccurate.
All right, so we have another comment here.
Could I add one thing? I'm sorry. Could I add one thing?
Go ahead.
And we just want everybody to know it's a 27-year wait. If we don't get it right now, we would have to wait another 27 years before the next census.
That's
some food for thought.
Absolutely.
All right. A. Rogers says, wait, why was freedmen listed with our official classifications? There were many freedmen throughout history in many countries. Anybody want to take that?
So who said I would take it?
I said I could speak to that.
Okay, so Dawn, you can go ahead and speak to it then.
Yeah, I wanted to point out it, and that's why we did the legislative crosswalk or the walk through time, to show, and I think somebody has a hot mic, to show how we are connected to all of the names, not only emotionally and generationally, but through legislation here in this country. So while there may or may not have been freedmen in other countries, there were only Negro freedmen in America. And as a result, there are sweeping pieces or bodies of legislation attached to the freedmen. And the result of our falling away from the knowledge of that has been to not be effective in collecting and enforcing, most importantly, the 14th Amendment. And so what we're seeing, that is one of the consequences of this confusion, is that we see immigrants using the 14th Amendment. We see white supremacists using the 14th Amendment because we are ignorant or nescient, meaning not knowing, of the leverage and understand that we are freedmen, that is just an era in the timeline of our people here on this land. So that's why freedmen is included. We wanted to put the gate up and claim not just names, but names that legitimately have legislation attached to them, so that in the future, should you want to make a claim, your family group, your community, your neighborhood, your city, you can go and pick which applies most or best to your situation.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. A. Rogers again says, I've never heard of peoplehood before. When was this created?
When we were created.
So
I can't hear you, Doc.
Oh, it's on. You might want to turn on your mic.
All right. Tangi, are you there?
I am.
All right, can you give them the background information on peoplehood, please?
Yes. So peoplehood is not a new term. Peoplehood is something that in the social sciences community, this is how they address specific groups of people. So when you hear us refer to peoplehood, that's what we're referring to. We are a distinct group of people, and that's just the academic term that's used. So it's not a new term, but I want people to draw their attention to the chart, that the reporting categories. Examples of peoplehood is everywhere on that chart. Every single category on that chart is an example of peoplehood. Every block is a distinct group of people that have a shared lived experience. Every block except for ours. The African diaspora is treated like one big blob of folks with no individuality. And even in the definition, they don't afford us our dignity as individual groups that have individual cultures. They just say we all the same. You can say Haitian and Black, and that mean the same thing. And it does not. It doesn't. And I can tell you it don't. And we know that within ourselves it doesn't, because if you could tell a Haitian person that they are from somewhere else, you're going to get a lot of pushback from them. You do that to a Caribbean, tell them that they, get the nations confused. They will get you straight. Ours has not. And subsequently, the United States government is forcing these people from within the diaspora to. So we're asserting ourselves and saying no more. You have to respect our individual distinctness. We all other places have here, and it's only us that created it. So when we say peoplehood, we mean all of that stuff, and it's not new. The United States government has failed to afford us the dignity of our individual distinctness as a people. So don't get confused about it. It's nothing new. We've been doing this all along. The government has failed to recognize us as a people. Therefore, they're shoving everybody else into our category, and that has to stop, because that's ethnocide.
And let me just piggyback on what Tansy said. Thank you first, Tansy, for clarifying that. But please understand that peoplehood, excuse me, is the awareness of one's identity as a member of a distinct group. Okay. Now, as Tansy said, the United States has failed since our existence on this soil to recognize us as, all right. But what we have done is we have not only put the only one in the United States to recognize us as one group of people that are distinct from the other melanated diasporan people, right? What we have done to show them that we recognize and that we respect each and every person's identity is that we created subcategories. We created a category Sub-Saharan African. And that category allows each and every person that, as the current definition of the OMB reads, each and every person that descends from the Black racial groups of Africa to identify specifically with their nationality and their ethnicity as where they are coming from. And then we subsequently, in our proposal, created the Caribbean category. So they too can be respected for the uniqueness of their nationality and their origin. And all we are saying to our people, is our government, is that we too demand to be respected and acknowledged for our distinct people, which are the Black Americans. With that, do we have any more questions? I think we can go in for another 5 minutes.
Can I put a pin on that and say, in terms of respect, let's respect our Saharan and Caribbean brothers and sisters, and let them go and have their own categories as well, and not be lumped in with slaves. I think we owe it to them to support them in that.
All right. Is peoplehood just a quick way to say unity and a call to action to send CAP's recommendation to the OMB?
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely, that is all that it is.
And
if anyone wants to chime in, go for it, Tansy.
Yeah, and I think we kind of touched on that. Yes, it's a way for us to say collective unity. It's new. You see it in the Native Americans. You see it with the Jewish people. There's a movement of Roma, but those are individuals in Italy. They are a distinct ethnic group within Italy, a population of people that are Italian. And if you look at the chart, they're listed. They're on the chart. I ain't never heard of Roma. Had to look it up because it's not a country. So the United States government understands peoplehood, and people around the world understand peoplehood. It's just that we don't operate using those terms in America, so it kind of gets lost on us. We're just used to race and ethnicity, but other people are used to smaller pockets. They have villages in Europe all over the place, and those people are distinct and have a distinct lineage. And that's what we're trying to impress on the United States government. You go respect us like you respect everybody else on that chart. It's only fair.
All right. Did you all gather statistically valid, reliable, and significant data collection of the public regarding self-identification preferences?
So I will take that question again.
You want me to say chime in, or I'll wait for you?
Yeah, let me chime in, then you can feedback
great.
on it, because you are our data collector. So thank you. So I will say again that we have done a wealth of data collection starting from about 15 months ago. We began to listen into our community. We polled our boots on the ground community. We have been polling our social media community. And then we waited until after the OMB's town hall, and then we went through 7,000 plus comments, and then we began to compile all of that data to understand that current day, our people identify mostly with Black American. And let me just say this before I pass it to Mona. If you go back in time, what you find is, and we've already covered this, that for generations, we have been changed. So people who were born during the generation of when color was on their birth certificate, if you, for the most part, talk to them, they are our silencer group, you will find that they still say colored people. They always say, those colored people, y'all just are out here acting crazy. And then those people who were born during the baby boomer generation, Negro resonates more with them. Understand that the baby boomer and our silencer generation, they are passing away based on age. And so then you have the Generation Xers whose birth certificate shows Black on theirs. Then our millennials and our Gen Zers, our late millennials, show African American with our Gen Zers. Our older millennials shows Black. So when we started to poll our actual community out here in the real world, not in social media, what we did, take the polls to social media, what we found was Black was the more common identifier of all of us. And that is why we went with it. So now I'm going to allow Mona to pick up behind me because she is our expert with our data collection. Mona.
Hi, Moya, could you go back on that? Oh, that was from the gentleman Roger. He put in there. He said valid. Can you go back on those messages?
Are you talking about the question specifically?
Yeah. I'm sorry. The question.
All right.
I'm sorry.
All right. Yeah. Let me go back.
While you're looking, I just want to point out that we have been black. We have literally been black on the census or as defined by the OMB since 1977.
Okay. Thank you so much. So Roger, so the question is that did you gather statistically valid, reliable, and significant data collection on the public regarding self-identification purposes? So Hassan already answered that. So when you talk about validity, you're talking about the accuracy of the literature. So did we look through and read tons and tons of literature? Absolutely. We read so much literature. I'm really good at this kind of documenting information as well. We talk about the reliability, what the methods consisted. So there were two studies. Well, actually, not two studies. There was several studies, but two that really kind of point out. One was from Oxford Journal, a gentleman named Tom W. Smith. We can put that on our website so you're able to read to get the information yourself. And so he did an article on changing racial labels from color to Negro to Black to African American. And then there was another gentleman named Ben L. Martin who did from Negro to Black to African American, the power of names and naming. So in terms of being the literature being valid, reliable, consistency statistically, it has already been proven. We have been doing research on name changing and renaming our people for the last 5 to 6 generations. I also have a database of over 2,200 articles, not only just peer review articles. I have articles from dissertations and theses from very esteemed universities who were majored in African American studies as well. So when you think about it's confounding variables, and I'm pretty sure you understand what I mean by confounding variables. Confounding variables is something that it confuses what the actual information is. So everything starts to pull in on there. So when we doing data and we putting together data sets, we're very confident the information. So what Hassan was talking about with the 7,000 information that she got on the OMB, you know, that's qualitative data. And you know how when you do qualitative data, you go into the themes. So when she was going through the themes, Black was emerging. And you know, with anything dealing with qualitative data or quantitative data, things emerges. And if you know anything about anthropology, you know what I'm talking about, the study of people. But the information, if you need to get any information, we put on our website with all the documented peer review articles you need to see. Thank you.
All right. If we can, I guess if we can be here for about another 10 to 12 minutes and then we can wrap it up. But just real quick, shouldn't the ethnic identifier terms be placed in alphabetical order? If you guys want to read the rest of that. I don't know. Is that really important?
They'll list it the way they see fit. I mean,
exactly. What our intention was when we listed the ethnic identifiers, as Mona said, when it came to the data, and through the multiple peer studies that we have, we created an actual timeline. And if you go to CAP's website, you will see the timeline. As such, that is how we listed the categories. Does not mean, again, let me say again, this is a proposal. Doesn't mean that the OMB is going to accept it one, and if they do accept it, doesn't mean that they're going to put it in alphabetical order or chronological order based on when these identifiers were assigned to us. But our intent was to at least create the timeline and get the information out to our people.
Hold on, Umoria, real quick. Before you move on, you had this comment up that I wanted to touch on before we moved on. So, okay, I'm understanding more now. So AA, which is African American, would still disengage BA. I'm not sure what that means.
I think that means designate.
Oh, designate, okay. I was thinking AA would designate immigrant, sub-Saharan, continental Africans, and BA, American lineage, and AA, African lineage, which is a lot of what I've been hearing with the African American, the fact that it's still wrapped in this peoplehood. A lot of people are saying, I thought we were disaggregating from that. Why is it still being included?
Can I clean that up, Hassan?
And BA is Black American, designated as Black American.
But I want to, can I clean that up? Because I think we need to tie that together with the announcement that just came out of California. And I think that's causing confusion, and I get it now. So what happened in California is they were able to get legislation to state that African American is essentially an ethnicity that equates to a descendant of U.S. chattel slavery. That's all well and good, and we should be glad that now, as of today, Kamala Obama can no longer legally check African American. So how does that marry with what we have proposed today? Well, what we've said is that Black American is the umbrella, and under that, each of the names we have been known by, including African American, comes under that umbrella. So essentially, they act as identifiers / ethnicities, although we don't want to use the term ethnicity because in truth, our peoplehood is one big ethnicity, or could be considered that, but that's not what we want to tie our peoplehood to. We have these specific pieces of legislation. So for instance, a Barack Obama in a proposal, we say Black American, Sub-Saharan, and Caribbean. So Obama would check white and Sub-Saharan. Kamala Harris would check Asian and Caribbean, and so on and so forth. So we're actually in perfect synergy with what California has done. And we also are encouraging NASD to support this proposal as well, because it encompasses them, it includes everyone, it acknowledges the lineage-based advocacy groups that you identify with, and it also respects the diaspora by allowing them to have a category for themselves. And this way, one of the primary sources or uses of this information is to enforce civil rights violations. So if our information continues to be lumped in with people who in some instances are coming here with more education, et cetera, all of those things muddy the water. And that was a long answer for that, but I hope I understood, I help you understand the peoplehood umbrella of Black America.
Yeah, I understand that, but everything being under the banner of Black American, I mean, doesn't that make it race-based? I mean, if we have the term Black in there, is that going to create problems?
So let me say that. Let me take that. Two things I want to respond to. Someone in the chat asked, so when an African or a Caribbean comes here, how would they identify? Again, we are introducing two new subcategories in addition to the redefining of what Blackness is here in the United States.
I think you're confusing with the word subcategory. They're new categories. They're not subcategories of Black.
So yeah, so let me not say subcategories. We are introducing two new reporting categories, which is the terminology that the OMB uses. We are introducing two new reporting categories, which is Sub-Saharan African and Caribbean. And those two categories are very clear and distinct to those people who come from those regions. Now, to go back to what Kim's question was, which was, if we use Black American, doesn't that tie us to race? Again, the current standing definition, the answer would be yes, Kim. But if you are familiar with the OMB and what they have done with the new proposed category that they are proposing, which is MENA or MENA, then what you see is that they redefine whiteness and they remove MENA and they removed that. Well, basically, they removed Middle East and North Africans out of the white category, essentially redefining it and giving them their own category. And they did that based on the OMB's proposal. They did that because those two groups specifically said they do not have a shared living experience or lineage with whiteness as it pertains to Europeans, and that they do not identify as white, and they reject being forced to identify as something that their group does not. The same thing that they are doing. We are telling the OMB, we too want the same level of respect. We do not identify as Africans. We do not have the same shared living experience as Africans. As such, we too want our category redefined to recognize our specific lineage and how we choose to identify here on this soil that our ancestors assisted in building this country from. So no, we cannot be tied to race ever again. One, if we get this redefined. Two, if at any point any of our identifiers litigate or legislate anything, they no longer have to litigate it or legislate it under the category title of Black American. Because why? Because now our identifiers are recognized at the OMB. So you can be an American descendant of slavery. You can be a Black American descendant of slavery. You can be a foundational Black American, and you can go and litigate under the pretense of foundational Black American. And once you get something done, the entire people under the category Black American will now benefit. Never again are we forced to identify under a racial category. We can now be recognized as our identifiers under that one category. Was that more clear?
Yeah, that's clear. So if I'm understanding it correctly, if this reclassification goes through, then it's essentially delineating from race.
I think the more important question that I'm hearing is, does this have something to do with reparations? And a large chunk of the issue or conflict with this discussion is people believing that we're trying to craft a eligibility requirement into our ethnic identifier. Now, if we think about who we are as a people, some of us do not necessarily identify as ADOS. They identify as foundational Black American. So the more important thing is to understand that reparations will require proof of your lineage. This will enable us getting a proper specific designation will enable us to be counted properly, to be able to pursue legal actions if necessary. But the primary role of it is for counting purposes, for allocation of resources, and for providing the information we need for advocacy. So it's not the same as reparations, although they are obviously very much related. And I'll just give you an example of Rachel Doziel checking the black box, or an immigrant checking the black box. That increases our numbers, and it says, oh, well, instead of 100 million, we need to give you 102 million because you got 2 extra people over here. But when you go to cash the check, you have to reveal your paperwork, your birth certificates, or whatever we establish as the criteria. So we need to keep these separate.
So I think based on the current definition, or the redefining of this definition, I think this question has been, or the statement has been answered, correct, to the panel?
Correct.
All right.
It has been. And I just want to piggyback very quickly on what Dawn just pointed out, that the OMB, their interest in doing what they are doing is to redefine race and ethnicity as it pertains to the United States. All right. They are not there to determine the eligibility for reparations. And I think one of the reasons why things got so far off track when we rolled out this proposal is because people were conflating the two. This is strictly about race and ethnicity. This is not about the criteria for reparations. And never, please know, never has this work group said that we have defined what the eligibility criteria would be, because we haven't. We're not even entertaining that. That wasn't our goal when we came together as a collective. It was strictly to define ourselves moving forward, because we understood the importance of this. And that is this: if we don't define ourselves right now, while the OMB is examining how they're going to define race and ethnicity in this country, then we miss this memo for the next 27 years. We will have to then be reactive instead of being proactive. And that is something that our group has suffered with for a long time. We are always reactive. So we try to be proactive and approach this in a proactive way, bring it to our community and say, let's find unity within our community so that we define ourselves, we put the gate up about our lineage, and then we can deal with anything amongst ourselves within our group privately behind the scenes. But if we don't get this done, I want everyone to understand, if we don't get this done, then we fail our future generations. Because instead of us understanding that unity amongst our community was the more important piece to this, that we protect our classification and that we protect our identifiers so that never again will they reclassify us, and never again will we have to continue to fight about America flattening us into one big pot of so-called blackness. That is the most important piece here. This is not a reparations discussion. It is a race and ethnicity discussion for us currently and for our future generations.
Can I say there is a grave financial consequence if we do not get this right, in the form of a humongous wealth transfer called the New Deal for New Americans? So I do want to bring it back also. We talked about the FREEDMEN legislation, the NEGRO legislation, and we also have legislation on the books for Black, believe it or not. I want us to think about the people on the corner who talk about Black being dead. It's just a color. It has no meaning. There is nothing further from the truth. There's nothing further from the truth. I'm certain that that has to do with Black folks being Black, trying to get policy written for Negroes. That's what I am certain that mentality came from. But we must understand that there is a huge wealth transfer upon us if we do not put this gate up and demand claim the funded pieces of legislation that are waiting for us to get beyond this point, so that we can turn our attention to this new fight that has revealed itself.
Can I say something?
All right. Just real quick, and then whoever wants to speak, I just want to give a shout out to What's Good TV. Appreciate the super chat. The hidden resources cannot hide once this is clarified. Great work.
Exactly.
Thanks again for the chat.
Exactly.
So,
all right,
as,
family. So go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. As Asan and Dawn has mentioned, we are have the utmost respect for our sub-Saharan and our Caribbean brother and sister. I don't know how many times I have met people who was like, who come from the sub-Saharan Africa or come from the Caribbean, who always say, I didn't know I was Black till I came to America. So we want you guys to know that you can use, if you a Jamaican American, if you a Haitian American, we want you guys to know you can use those things. We're just being very respectful of your lineage. That's all we're doing. Thank you.
All right, family. Well, I think we've answered pretty much, and we've gone through a lot of the comments here. Just a couple more, and then we'll go ahead and close this wonderful discussion out. Is these powerful, wonderful speakers dropping into Clubhouse and Twitter rooms, spaces, and dropping this knowledge? I know I'm in the mass media group. We're normally not in the Twitter spaces, but I don't know if the work group wants to answer that. Son, I don't know if you're speaking, sis, but you want to unmute your mic. There you go.
I'm sorry. Thank you. So we have been more so active in the Twitter spaces, more so than in Clubhouse. I think that we do have to move the campaign into the Clubhouse space. That's something that the work group has to prepare for, though, because we have we've had our fair share of blows as it pertains to our community, just to say it lightly. But we understand that this is the people's work. This is our work. This is our ancestors' work. And, you know, none of this work goes without taking some type of negative blowback. We understand that. But to answer the question just straightforward, absolutely, yes, we have taken it to the Twitter, quote unquote, streets. And we are now we do have to transfer over into Clubhouse. Again, though, before we go, I did want to mention to everyone that's out there to please go to the CAP website, click on the banner to go to the OMB page. Please get involved with the 10-day call to action, boots on the ground. We have until April 12th for this OMB public comments piece of it to close out. And we need our people to download the petition, go into your communities. There's no need for us to go back and forth on any of these social media spaces. What you will find out here in our community, in the real world, is that our people are not aware of an ADOS, a Freedmen, a FBA, or any of that. They are not aware of any of that until we come to them with this petition to let them know that the OMB yet again is about to change our identifier as it pertains to the legislation that we have. They are about to change it with this large influx of immigrants again to create a new department for them with the funding that was already set aside for us back in 1970. And so,
yes.
So the more important piece here that I want people to understand before we leave here is take this fight off of social media. Download and print out the petition and go into your neighborhoods. If we say we are about change and we are about our people, we are asking you now to step out into the real world. Come from behind these computers, get the petitions signed. It is 10 signatures per petition, and then upload it. And if you want to download 10 petitions and get all 10 filled in, then that's 100 signatures from our community. So the OMB understands it stops now. We are here. We got the memo, and we are not going to stand down ever. Our lineage, our people have a specific history and lineage here, and we will never again allow anyone else to define who we are. We are here now. We know who we are. We are ADOS, FBA, African American, Freedmen, Negro. All of those things matter. That is who we are as one people, one group. And that is all I have to say.
Right.
All right, family. Thank you very much. So we have this slide up here. I just want to make sure, Hassan and other panel, that we can actually go ahead and put this in the description of the video once the video has rendered and is up on YouTube. Can we put the information, I guess, from CAP on down to Chicago Freedmen into the description?
That's fine with me. If anyone has any objections. Okay, so the work group is fine with that.
Okay, sounds good. All right, before we head out, if each one of you people can reach out to you via organization or as individuals, we can go ahead and do that. Hassan, if you want to start, and then we'll go with Dennis, Mona, Tanzi, and then Dawn.
Okay, so for me, my social media is my government name. So it's at Asan Powell for Facebook, for Twitter, and for Clubhouse. And then, of course, for Capital Accountability Project, we are, for Twitter, we are at Cap Task Force. And that is the same for Facebook, but I'm going to turn the rest of that over to Tansy because she's our social media person, so I don't know our LinkedIn pages and what have you. But thank you.
Yes, we can be reached at info@captaskforce.org. We have the website in the chat. You can find us on Twitter at Cap Task Force. You can find us on LinkedIn at Cap Task Force. You can find us on Facebook at Cap Task Force. So we're here, Cap. Please reach out to us. Get the information, get your boots on the ground, and talk to your families and branch out from there.
And don't forget our YouTube channel.
Yes.
And everything that Tansy say, I concur.
So our YouTube channel is still at Cap Task Force.
Kim and Ujame, did I say it correctly?
Oh, Umoya.
I'm sorry, Umoya. You guys have been an amazing host. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed today. So I can be reached at D as in donut, C as in cat, Strahan, STRAHAN, the number 4 at gmail.com. So that's DC Strahan 4 at gmail.com. And then also please send all the information to Cap because we have a board and we make sure we take everything directly through a sign before we communicate anything else out. So anything you need, just make sure everybody knows you can get in contact with me. And thank you so much again. Thank you.
Dawn?
Hey, thank you. I wanted to answer Blue Morgan's question. Black children born to immigrants, will they be Black Americans or how? They will be Caribbean or Sub-Saharan, wherever their parents were born is how they will classify. They would not be Black Americans. You can reach me on Twitter at Freedmen Rights, FREEDMEN Rights. Otherwise, I'll find you.
And Dawn, just for clarification on the piggyback of that Black American, same goes for African American?
Yes, it does. African American is now an ethnicity codified by the state of California and tucks nicely under Black American.
And let me just send some shout outs to some of the panel, some of our core panel that are not here. So to reach out to Angela Nirvana from the Reparations Perspective, you can find her on YouTube at the Reparations Perspective. I think she's on Facebook as TRP. And I also want to shout out Amaru Young from the Kentucky U.S. Freedmen Coalition. He wasn't able to come on with us today, but I did want to make sure that we acknowledge him and his contribution to the work group as well. So that would be, I think that was all that we have. I don't think we have anything else left. Again, for CAP, any questions, you can email us at info@captaskforce.org, or you can just come to the website and you can shoot an email to us directly from there as well. And thank you, Kim and Umoya. Let me just say, thank you all for jumping in there and getting the video for us. For all who wanted to know who produced our video, none other than ETM. I don't know what else I can say about YouTube. I know I called you all on a humble and said, can you please help us? We are pressed for time and we need this messaging done. And you all have surpassed all expectations that I could have asked of you. So thank you all from the bottom of my heart and from the work group. Thank you for helping us and getting this put out. We've heard a lot about marketing and how we should have, could have, and didn't do this, that, or the third. But those of us who work on this program and on this in the background, you all know that we are not professionals, and I came crawling to you all on my knees like, please, please, please save us. So thank you to ETM Media. I love you all so very much. You all have never let me down when I called on. So
hey, much love and respect, son, you know, and to everybody, to all our Black American, however you guys want to, you know, categorize yourself, man, we love you. But before we go, I don't think, Dennis, brother, I don't think we heard from you, man. Do you have contacts? I could be wrong. Did you want to say something, brother?
Oh, just one thing. We have 10 days or we have 27 years. The end. Not much more else to say. 10 days or 27 years.
That's 10 days, boots on the ground campaign. If we don't get this done, then we're locked in for 27 years for how they choose to define us. That's what Dennis is reiterating. 10 days or 27 years. We got to figure it out.
Wonderful. All right, Kim, if you have anything else, if not, we're going to wrap it up and we're going to head out with our outro.
Just I choose the 10-day timeline. So get over to the CAP website, download that petition, make your comments to the OMB while we have the opportunity. And I just want to thank all of you for research and trying to unravel some of this reclassification cluster that we've been in for centuries now. So thank you.
Thank you all. Good night, everyone.
Good night. On that note, peace and reparations.
Good night.
Thanks, EMC. Appreciate it.
Peace and reparations.
The way it currently stands, forced labor. The way it currently stands, forced labor, slavery takes precedence over rehabilitation and public safety.
Oh, by the way, while the Biden administration gives reparations to everyone but free people, look at the billions he has run over to Ukraine.
We don't have Black grocery stores because if you think about it now, just to get in that supply chain, it's almost unheard of.
They don't want the truth to get out. Okay? I don't want to know what my family did or what all these people did and all this stuff like that. Okay? You read that 500-page report.
There's this thing called white superiority and Black inferiority. That mindset allows all of the behaviors that we've seen across generations.
They had no idea that that church I was running by every day was something my grandfather established.
This is not a handout. This is a debt that is owed.
You know, Allensworth was like the internet of his time in 1904, 1905.
The total Black population in California is about 2.6 million. And then of that, the descendants compose about 2.2 million of that. So California, with a multi-billion-dollar surplus, can absolutely afford to satisfy the international terms for reparations, beginning with compensation.
Any financial obstacle that exists that impedes the success of increasing financial prosperity needs to be dealt with and eliminated.
No matter where we've been, no matter what part of this fight we've been in, we've been harmed, and we've had harm done to us specifically.
When I got to Los Angeles, this was some of the worst segregation I'd ever seen. And remember, I'm telling you, I'm from Mississippi.
Because as you can see, I'm giving you broken history right now, you know, but I had to give it to you guys. I said, no, I got to show them this because it's so precious and nobody really knows about it.
Overnight, it's like, oh, it's no longer the quarters, now it's Lincoln Heights. Oh, so now we get to use Abraham Lincoln for our name. And you see about all the others that they could have used, but they picked Lincoln. And I think that's sort of a stereotypical they do.
There wasn't any Black restaurants. It's quite Black business, and it wasn't not.
Black people don't have that kind of luxury. Our historically Black communities have been redistricted multiple times.
Why has it been easier for other groups?
Because of anti-Black hatred.
Now listen, if you can't handle the TR room, don't tune in.
is also stored all over the floor, including